Hey guys, welcome to Streak Initiative. This is Sukanya Rana, and this week we are covering international relations related questions for your Prelims 2021. This video is going to cover a few of the themes that were important in the last 1 year. Use these videos as a break between your preparation for prelims so that, even in those breaks, you're able to revise some of the topics that are important. Again, I think there's just less than a month's time that is left for your prelims preparation. So make sure that you focus more upon revising right now, focus more upon attempting more and more mock paper. Do not pick up anything new. You can skip out news for some time, because it's more important to revise the previous news right now rather than reading the new news right now. So these are the things. So let's move on to the first question. And before, again, do register for Streak program. The links have been provided in the description box. You can access free material, UPSC material. Also, you can have access to the Telegram group also, where you can discuss your issues and doubts, and they will be cleared it up. So the first question that we're going to discuss today is globally important agricultural heritage system partnership initiative. Now this is a very important topic because this has been asked in your previous year question paper. This particular initiative is globally run by FAO, and the idea behind this particular initiative is that FAO identifies some of the most, landscapes where important agricultural biodiversity and resilient ecosystem is created in the aesthetic beauty, right? So what is happening here is the agricultural system, they have a kind of a cultural heritage which has been preserved since ages, and it has become a important part of that ecosystem. And nowadays, with changes like climate change, the rising level of pollution, economic activities, these important traditional agricultural heritage have been endangered. So FAO have identified these important heritage activities and traditional cultures in order to conserve and preserve those activities, right? So two statements with respect to this particular initiative have been given. Number one is Apatani wet rice cultivation and Kuttanad wetland agriculture are the sites under FAO GIAHS, that is 2 sites from India. Second is Kuttanad wetland agriculture system is the only system in India that favors wet rice cultivation below the sea level. Now, you can pause the video, read the question again, think about your answer, and then check your answer also. So the answer for this particular question is actually B. The first statement is wrong here. India does have 2 sites which are under this particular program, but they are not Apatani wetland rice cultivation. It's Kuttanad and Koraput region traditional systems. So these 2 regions are under this particular program. This Apatani rice cultivation is also important practice, and it is actually practiced in the tribal region. This Apatani is actually a tribe in Arunachal Pradesh, and it's practiced in Arunachal Pradesh. So this is also important piece that you should know about. So the first statement is wrong. We have 2 important sites which are under this particular initiative from India, that is Kuttanad and Koraput. Now, if we talk about Koraput system, that is basically dealing with floral vegetation, right? So there's this rich floristic diversity that consists of 2,500 species of flowering plants. So that is something that is being trying to be saved, and with rising amount of mining and deforestation in the Koraput region, these particular species have been under danger. So that is why this has been identified, so that it can be valued, it can be preserved for a longer period. Second statement is absolutely right. Kuttanad is the only system where you have rice cultivation below the sea level. So we have rice cultivation in the brackish water here. So this is also a good, very different and traditional cultural heritage that is present in this particular area of the region of India. So why is this under threat? Because there's this rising level of pollution from the rivers due to tourism, and all those reasons have made this practice much more difficult to continue. So that is also another way through which this activity has been identified so that it can be preserved for future. So the answer for this particular question is B. And again, you can go and revise this particular topic. If you remember, like few weeks back, I had discussed Codex Alimentarius with you, which is also a program under FAO. And at that point of time, I had actually told you to go out, check the Wikipedia page of FAO, check the other initiatives that particular body does. And at that time, I was not able to actually remember this particular name. So this was the initiative that I was talking about. So go through all the initiatives that FAO is concerned with. They are important. They have been asked in the examination. So yeah, those themes are important. Next question that we're going to talk about is International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And you have to identify which statement is correct with respect to it. So the first statement is that ICCPR is monitored by United Nations Human Rights Council. And second is all the UN members are party to ICCPR. Again, you can pause the video, lock in your answer, and then check whether it's right or not. The answer for this particular question is actually D. None of the statement is correct. Now, see, ICCPR is actually monitored by United Nations Human Rights Committee, which is a completely different body from United Nations Human Rights Council. All right. So they both are completely separate body. The Human Rights Council is actually a UN political body which is composed of all the states of United Nations, and it was actually established by United Nations General Assembly to take care of UN Charter, discuss the entire range of human rights concern, right? So the whole idea of human rights are actually looked after by this particular body, which is United Nations Human Rights Council. But if we're talking about a Human Rights Committee, that is a UN expert body, which is actually composed of persons, and it is particularly created under this particular International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights. So under this particular treaty, it's established, and whatever working that this particular committee does is limited to this particular treaty. So all the monitoring, all the discussion over rights of this particular treaty is done by a Human Rights Committee, United Nations Human Rights Committee, and Council takes care of the issue of human rights on a bigger issue, right? Second statement is also wrong here. Not all the UN members are actually party to ICCPR. If you look at the map, you can see it on the Wikipedia also. China has not ratified this particular treaty. Even Saudi is not a member of ICCPR. And both of them are pretty much the member of United Nations, right? So second statement is also wrong. So answer here is D. Make sure that you make note of these two bodies that I talked about, United Nations Human Rights Council and United Nations Human Rights Committee. Make sure you know the difference between these two. The next question that we're going to talk about is Chemical Weapons Convention, another convention that we're going to talk about. Again, these conventions are important from international relations point of view. So this convention is an arm control treaty which is administered by OPCW. Now, OPCW is a famous body and you should be aware of. It is an intergovernmental body, and it has also been in news when there were this bombing, the use of chemical weapons in Syria. So at that time also this body was in news. So second statement here is non-signatory to the biological weapon conventions. Now these are two different things here. That is chemical and this is biological. So include Israel, Somalia, Iran and Syria. So now here again, make sure both the conventions you are pretty much done through. You should know what these conventions are about, who are the bodies which administer this particular conventions, and who are the member states of this particular conventions, right? So the answer for this particular question is A. The first statement is pretty much right. The Convention on Chemical Weapons takes care of prohibition on any kind of development, production, stockpiling, and use of chemical weapons, and it aims to kind of control and the arms here and destruction of the present arms. And OPCW is the one which takes care of this particular treaty, and it is an intergovernmental organization which is based in Hague, right? Second statement is wrong here. For Biological Weapons Convention, we have 14 non-parties here. We've got Chad, Comoros, Djibouti, Egypt, Eritrea, Haiti. We've got Israel, Kiribati, Micronesia, Namibia, Somalia, South Sudan, Syria, Tuvalu. So Iran is not there. In fact, Iran is actually pretty much part of almost a lot of different conventions, right? Even yesterday I did a convention where I had raised the question about Iran, but Iran was member of that convention. So yeah, make sure you look at the membership, the year it was signed, what is it, which is the governing body. All these points are very important. So the answer here was A. The next question is also something related to arms. These kind of questions are also important. They have been asked in your previous year question papers also. So the first thing that we're doing is prevention of arms race in outer space. This is also known as PAROS. Is a document which is governed under the Outer Space Treaty. So these are two different things, and they're asking you whether this particular document is governed under the Outer Space Treaty or not. Second is fissile material cutoff treaty is legally binding on its signatories. So you have to identify the correct statement here. Now, if you're talking about PAROS, now see, we've got an Outer Space Treaty which was signed in 1967, and I think it's a much more famous treaty. Everybody is aware about this particular treaty because this takes care of how the outer space material is, outer space regulations are to be done. So all those ideas have been covered in this particular treaty. India is a member of Outer Space Treaty, right? But this particular document, this Prevention of Arms Race in Outer Space, is not actually covered under the outer space, though it reaffirms the fundamental principles that are part of Outer Space Treaty, but it is not directly governed under it. In fact, it's a subsidiary body to your Conference on Disarmament. So this particular document is under the Conference of Disarmament. So the first statement here is actually wrong. The second statement, that is FMCT as a treaty, was actually as an international treaty which has been proposed in order to control the production of nuclear weapons and their explosive devices. Now, this treaty went on for negotiation, but has never been negotiated up till now. And the terms and everything still needs to be defined for this particular treaty. So it's not something that is out there that is working. It's still, I think, in works. And so, yeah, even second statement is wrong here. The answer here is D. If you're not aware about these terms, make sure to go to Google and look a bit into it. So that, when you're talking about Outer Space Treaty, there are a couple of things that you can look into. There's one related to Moon also. So go through the list of treaties with respect to outer space and you can have access. Just look at them. You don't have to do anything in detail, but you'll have an idea about what all treaties are there with respect to space. The next question, and which is the final question of the day, is actually an exercise which was in news, pretty much in news. That is why this question is here. This is exercise Shanti Ogroshena 2021. So you have to identify the correct statement with respect to it. So the first statement here is that it's a multilateral military exercise which is conducted by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And second is India and Pakistan are participating in the exercise along with Bhutan and Sri Lanka. Now, if you've done your current affairs, then you might be able to catch here that the first statement is pretty much wrong here. It's not conducted by Saudi Arabia. It's in fact conducted by Bangladesh, and it's to commemorate the birth centenary of the Bangladesh father of the nation, which is Sheikh Rahman, and mark their 50 years of glorious liberation. Right, so that is why this particular exercise was done. And if you're able to identify, I think, the first statement, that it's Bangladesh and why it's done, then I think you can easily say that even second statement is wrong. Why would Pakistan participate in the liberation of Bangladesh? I don't think that would make any sense. So with that logic, you can easily eliminate the second option here. So the answer here is D. In India is participating very much. So we have Bhutanese army, we have the Sri Lankan army, we have the Bangladeshi, we have the Indian contingent which is participating. There are multiple military observers like US, UK, Turkey, Saudi, Kuwait and Singapore. So they all are part of it. So yeah, Pakistan is not part of it, and I don't think it will be part of it. So answer here is D. Now this was also a news in your current affairs, so make sure you're revising all that. And that's it guys for today. All the best for your prelims. Keep on studying and keep on working hard.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update from Civilsdaily.